A warm welcome to the second episode of the podcast, The Swedest Deal. This time I'm talking to Barry Greenstein, his background before going into poker. We're talking about the American media landscape and some politics, of course, and how things are today. This podcast is possible thanks to our sponsor, Intertops Poker. Now enjoy this talk. Yeah. Okay, so let's start the talk then. So this is Rickard talking to Barry Greenstein. Barry, how are you?
I'm doing fine.
Yeah, it's been a few years now since we talked last time. What has changed?
Well, you said that the next winter you were inviting me to come out and spend some time with you and Asha in Sweden.
Yeah,
and that's never happened.
No, that's bad. That's terrible. I think we should. I mean, maybe when the pandemic is over, you and Alex should come over to Sweden. We have a very small house, but there's room for you here, so you should stay here for sure.
Well, it wasn't the house; it was the view. I remember you showed me the view. I assume there's a lot of snow on the ground still.
I can show you. Let's see if it goes with me here. Let's see. This is what it looks like, right? Can you see out there?
Of course, it's late at night. It's the middle of the day where I am, and it's late at night where you are.
It's a lot of snow out here.
Yeah, it looks like you got your Christmas tree without ornaments up there.
Did you have any snow where you live?
No, I'm in Los Angeles, but I'm from Chicago originally, so of course there would be snow on the ground there. Yeah. And that's what I grew up with, and that's what I intentionally left for Los Angeles. But it still looks pretty to me, as long as I don't have to live in it.
I usually say to people who haven't been to Sweden before, maybe either come in the winter when maybe January, but preferably in July, because Sweden is not good for the climate. It's good for many other things, but not the climate.
Yeah, well, of course, the other thing, at least you guys were the guinea pigs for not locking down the country.
Yeah,
trying to get herd immunity, and I mean, I thought it was a good idea, kind of. I mean, it's kind of hard to say a good idea when whatever twice or three times as many people ended up dying as would have if you hadn't done it. But it also gave the rest of the world some statistics because, I mean, let's face it. When they told us they're locking down here, California was ahead of some of the other states, most of the other states, probably all the other states actually. I wasn't happy about it. We couldn't go to the card rooms anymore and all that. But, we could at least see the numbers in Sweden to gauge whether that was the right thing to do or not the right thing to do.
Yeah, I kind of supported Mr. Tegnell, who's been our guy, our Fauci, or whatever you would call it.
Right.
And I for quite some time I was kind of happy with what we tried to do here, and we had a pretty good life over the past year compared to many other countries for sure. And I don't know what's right or wrong. Probably is wrong, but I think we had an okay 2020 anyway. So we'll see what happens.
It's one of those problems that doesn't have good solutions.
No.
I mean, in our country, still a lot of people have died, obviously, and we shut down businesses. Really, a lot of economic harm. Either way you went. I mean, we can see the Asian countries that didn't have to shut down. They ended up doing it the best. The way they did it is you couldn't come into their country. They quarantine you if you come in the country. I mean, see countries like Vietnam. I mean, they were for a while they had no deaths. I mean, you might say, oh, I don't trust their numbers, but you couldn't come in their country without quarantine. In Taiwan, obviously it's easier. They're on an island, but still they, South Korea, hundreds of deaths instead of hundreds of thousands of deaths, So
yeah,
the key was to not let people come in, to quarantine them when they come into your country. And it's really difficult to do that in America since we are such a hub for the world.
Yeah, for sure.
But that would have been, if we could have done something like that. We did it, for instance, with Ebola. It didn't get big, but I don't know if you remember with Ebola, you had to quarantine. That was what happened. And we didn't get any Ebola in the country. Of course, it wasn't contagious like, it was more deadly, but not contagious like the coronavirus. And people were suing the government for making them quarantine when they came here. said, you can't lock me down for 14 years. It's against my rights. So, and of course, with our country, it's such a big country. You always have so many issues where the cities look at things different than the country. The countryside places, and so, and then you try to get a one-size-fits-all solution, and that doesn't work very well either. And so it ends up really being a mess. So, yeah, it's been bad. But the good thing is we do see a light at the end of the tunnel. I'm eligible to get vaccinated here, and because I'm over 65, and every day I would log onto the website, seeing if I could get an appointment. I never could. Finally, one day I got an appointment after like my 8th time, and I'm so happy. I'm going through the state of California portal. They vaccinated. I got my for the next Saturday, but the step after that was to get your second appointment, which is 3 weeks, and that I couldn't get an appointment, so I couldn't go forward. So right now, they're really not even giving appointments because they're afraid of running out of the vaccine for second appointments for people who already got the first one. So we're thinking in a week or two we'll get more of the vaccine, and then I'll be able to get an appointment. Here in California, the card rooms have just reopened, but I don't feel safe going in there, even though they've got these like tents now instead of indoors. But it looks like indoors, but with flaps. It's kind of a weird situation. You're passing around chips. You're sitting next to people. They don't allow you to eat at the table because you have to keep your mask on. But it doesn't seem safe. Now, what some people did is they went to Vegas and played poker, and someone was asking me to go to Arizona, and I just said, when I get vaccinated, I'll look into stuff like that. So a group of them went to Arizona. They came back with coronavirus. I mean, they infected their families.
That's very sad, huh?
Seriously killed a grandmother or two.
That's horrible. That's horrible.
I know it sounds bad, but the whole thing is people say, are you really, 99% of people or more than that live, it doesn't kill you. And it's, people say, are you afraid of dying? Are you afraid it's going to kill you? No, I'm in pretty good health. Even though I'm over 65, no, I don't think it's going to kill me. I think I get sick and I get over it. But if you're going to be in contact with other people, you're going to keep it spreading. And along the way, someone's going to die. So you really are in a position. Do you really want to say, yeah, I'm going to get over it? Yeah, I might have killed someone's grandmother in the process, but I was fine.
Yeah. I was fine. But poker players are not famous for being the most, they mostly think of themselves, right?
Right, but to me, I think of it mathematically, and I just think, I can see the spread, and I'm not willing to take the risk, even if it's 1 in 10% chance I'm going to kill someone else's family member who's old or has diabetes or whatever. It's not worth it. I don't know what the numbers. And the other thing people forget, and you don't hear it discussed, is you're probably, if you're in decent health, and some people still die, we don't even know why, but if you're in decent health and you're not too old, you're not diabetic, some people don't even have symptoms, especially the younger they are, and almost everyone's going to recover. So that's a good thing. The bad thing is a lot of the people who recover have the lungs of a smoker. They end up with these other health conditions. Yeah. So it's like they're saying, "Hey, you're going to recover." Well, yeah, but I can't breathe anymore, and I'm going to be I'm going to be walking around with an oxygen tank when I'm older. So it's not that simple. I mean, and again, complicated problem. On the flip side, these people are losing their businesses, their livelihoods, and stuff like that. And so, it's like if someone came to you in the horse and buggy days and said, we're going to make it so you can travel real fast and go around the country, but every year you got to sacrifice 20,000. It used to be 40,000 people in the United States. Well, is that okay? You're going to kill 20 to 40,000 people every year. We'd say that's crazy. Of course, we're not going to sacrifice, but we do, because that's what cars are. We kill 20 to 40,000. But it's a trade-off. We feel it's worth it to have the extra mobility and be able to do the things we do. So I don't know where the trade-off is. It ends up being a religious argument, an economic argument, a political argument, and a big cities versus small cities argument. It's not, fortunately, hopefully with this vaccine stuff, and now you got the anti-vaxxer argument. someone's
Yeah.
microchipping you. And the one that gets me the most is Bill Gates, who obviously for most of our lives has been thought of as the richest person in the world. Some people say, no, it's Bill Gates. He's doing it to make money.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, oh, that's your argument? The guy who's worth, 50 billion has come up with a scheme to make more money, and that's why he's doing this. I mean,
Yeah, he's got that look too, right, Barry? He's got that look. You can see it in him. He's a killer, isn't it?
So some of these crazy arguments are just ridiculous.
You had quite a few interesting things coming up over the past 4 years. I don't know what it coincides with, but it has something to do with the president, I think. What do you think about the 4 last years? Have you enjoyed it?
No, it's been rough, but the problem is we've gotten into such cults, whether you're like in our country where you were with Donald Trump or you were against him and he was speaking for you and whatever. And the thing that people lose is like they like to attack each other.
Yeah.
You all see whether the Republicans say, kill the Democrats, and the same with Democrats. It goes both ways. So I'm not saying one's better than the other. But what they forget is when you attack Donald Trump, a lot of times what you do instead, and a lot of times you'll attack someone who supports him. Now, I can understand that and agreeing with him, but we are all Americans. We're supposed to have the same goals in some sense for America, for us to have, a good, strong country in whatever ways it is. Economically, obviously, is one of them. And instead, it gets in this cult thing because you shouldn't really be attacking the people who support a politician. And that's the way it's come out. Now we just attack each other. I understand that disagreeing with the politicians, disagreeing with the platforms, all these kind of things, but it's gotten so divisive that, we keep on thinking it can't get any worse, and it keeps getting worse. I mean, the good thing with Joe Biden is he's boring. Nothing's going to happen. He's got things he'll do different politically, but he's not going to be making news every day with some incredible thing he's saying because he's not going to say as much. No. It's not going to be like reality TV. So at least it should give us all some sort of rest. But we still have just people attacking each other over and over and over. And that's not a good thing for anyone's mental health. And what I always try to tell people is that, and of course, we've seen with Facebook and Twitter and all these things that feed you things that are like what you've already seen before, the social media stuff. We get such polarized news now.
Yeah, I know.
You either watch a right-wing channel or a left-wing channel,
yeah.
And we keep getting filled with information that supports our worldviews. And so when people always say, why don't I take a more political stance and say some of the things I think? And I always say that I try to be understanding of other people because we're all, at this point, a product of the news we get.
I know.
You may get a lot of right-wing news saying all these horrible things are happening if you don't go this one direction, and I may be getting a lot of left-wing news saying, things are better and people are being put in cages and horrible things are happening. So we all end up being a product. We're all getting manipulated, whether we like to admit it or not. And so, don't be so confident. And here's the worst thing. People always like to be all or nothing.
Yeah, I know.
Don't be confident. Don't be so confident that everything you think is right is right.
I know.
Because if you end up on the fringe of your left or right, you're just a mirror image of the people on the other side, and you end up being cultish, really. And so people always used to say to me, "Am I a Democrat or Republican?" And I just have to take the issues one at a time. Some I like one way, some I like another way. I kind of understand not spending too much money that we don't have. On the other hand, I'm probably more liberal, on certain social things than the average person, but I don't want to be pigeonholed into a political thing. And I've never been that fond of politicians in general.
Yeah, I know. The thing is, yeah. Well,
and one of the things that even was a little bit eye-opening to me with the poker lobby, I went to Washington, D.C. because we're lobbying people to get online poker legal, right?
Yeah.
And we'd sit down and tell them, you can generate a lot of tax revenue and all these different things. And I thought going in, I'm going to know the difference when I meet a Republican or a Democrat. They're all the same. They're just politicians. They want to hear about the money that's going to generate it. They're interested in getting, you contributing to their campaigns. They want to see if they can get votes. They're the same. I mean, they're more the same than you can even believe. You think because you see them on TV sticking to their party's ideology, they're really different. They usually have to be somewhat charismatic to get people to vote for them. But, getting too invested in politicians, so much of it's an act of what they're doing anyway to get reelected. You're going the wrong direction. These are the people you're really invested in as important. I mean, they're not. They have a certain thing. And even like one of the things you talk about, in our country, we talk about a lot, I don't know how it is in Sweden, special interests. And you're saying they're doing things because someone contributed a lot of money to them. That is how our system works. That's how things work around the world. Money talks, and politicians do things based on the money they're getting. No matter how altruistic they were coming in, they can't survive if they don't get money to get them reelected, so they have to go down that path. And I know a lot of times I'd say, yeah, isn't that terrible? And then I realized, well, what was I doing in the poker lobby? I was contributing money to campaigns, so they would do something for me. So even though I wasn't successful, you can't say that I wasn't a hypocrite.
Well,
I thought big money was bad. Well, I was small money, so yeah, I didn't get the job done, but I was trying to do the same thing. It's just the way the system works, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know. No, it's been quite surprising for us. I mean, how Europe is in general, and Sweden is specifically. We're very liberal, and we are very anti-edges usually. A lot of countries would call us left. We would call us more center, probably, compared to, we've been social democratic country for many years. But what struck me over the past couple of years is how far to the other direction, like CNN and all those media has gone, which creates an equally big problem. If you look at Fox News or CNN, it's the same problem. And usually I used to say CNN is good and Fox News are really too far out, but it seems like they just balanced it.
And they each have their excuse. Like, you need something like a Fox News to give a different viewpoint. And the problem is with something like CNN, which was more centered initially, they came to really got their things up during the Gulf War. They were the ones carrying all that stuff going on. It's all driven by, the problem is it's all driven by numbers.
Yeah.
They saw that Fox was really successful catering to their audience. And so they said, well, we got to drive our numbers up to compete. It's driven by numbers and money.
Yeah, that's the only thing.
So you end up in an echo chamber on each side. It is, it's a sad state. And the thing is, if you tried to run cable news that was like more in the middle.
Yeah.
I mean, we did have something that was more in the middle. It was Al Jazeera, but it was by Muslims that it didn't work, that they were looking at everyone as Americans instead of Republicans and Democrats. So that didn't work either, because that's boring. People don't want something that's giving them just facts. They want something that's validating their worldview and making them feel that they're right.
Yeah, but what about Joe Biden's words now when he says that, can we just listen to each other and lower the temperature? Is that something that doesn't appeal to the American in general?
No, because we're in some sort of civil war. No, people still want to fight. And even with Joe Biden, he'll say that, but then the Republicans will say, well, you say this and you do something else, which is inevitable. And then the Democrats say, yeah, well, you put us in the position. And it just becomes this cyclical argument. There's like, we're so deep into this, it's not like we're coming out of it soon.
But is there no, what would be, is there unsolvable problem, this one? Is it no way that some people would gather and say, listen, guys, we got to sort this out. Here is a plan. Is there any chance of finding a solution in that direction, Barry?
Well, we're a big, diverse country.
Yeah.
And so, hopefully things will get better, but we've been hoping it's get, through my lifetime, things have been monotonically increasingly divisive.
Yeah.
So it hasn't gotten any better. It just seems to keep getting worse. I was born after World War II when nationalism was very high. We were a very proud country. We felt like we saved the world, and we're the best country. We felt like, industrially we were the leaders, and all these kind of stuff. Really proud. So I understand some of the old guard. Proud of the flag, proud to be American, and that whole thing, very nationalistic, because that's what I grew up into.
Yeah.
But we've gotten worse at, I mean, we would always feel like we were the best. America's the best country. We're the best educationally. Well, now we're not even close. You rank by education. We're way down the list. China's taken over as far as economically. They have cheap labor. There are lots of advantages they have. I wouldn't want to, live in a communist country. America is the country I want to live in, but they have certain advantages, that they can, they can control people more, gives them advantages in certain areas.
Yeah. That's how it is. Yeah, it's been interesting years, however you look at it. I mean, I remember when the poker was shut down in the States, and now you're not, you can't even travel to other countries if you want to play. Do you play poker? Do you play a lot of poker these days?
Well, like I told you, I intentionally haven't. I could travel to play in a card room, and
but besides that,
but I haven't. So I did play some online, but live poker and online poker, we've had what's called privatization. Is that the right word? I don't know. Where if you're a good player, they can just tell you can't play. We've seen it happen online too. If you're winning, they think it's bad for the ecosystem. They can kick you out. They want to make all the money. It's kind of like what happened in the casino games in the casino. If you were winning at blackjack, they'd bar you. They only keep the people who are losing. Casinos, like to make it so everyone loses except them.
Yeah.
And even though a lot of times they're shooting themselves in the foot, because you need people to fill up seats to help build the games. Those people have value to them, but they've, so sites. So it comes down to, if a game is good and you're a good player, you might get shut out. It's happened to me online and live. And they'll have situations where if you can play, maybe you can't beat it because the rake is too big. Yeah. Especially at the lower stakes, they try to make it so no one can win. So
I remember,
very disappointing.
One of the most infamous interviews out of the thousands I've did over the years was actually one with Daniel Negreanu, when he tried to explain the new rake rules on Pokestars and why it was good for the bad player. And also good for the good player. It became a storm. It was such a big. Did you ever hear his arguments there?
Well, I was fed some of the statistics from Pokestars at the same time Daniel was. Of saying why it was better for the ecosystem, the things they were doing. And of course, I said, listen, I'm a poker player. You raise the rake on me, I'm never going to tell you. I'm not going to agree with you, because it's coming right out of my pocket.
Yeah. And, but if they would pay you a lot of money, though, would you be able to say it, Barry?
No, I never said it, and I always said no. And it made the sites get to where they are now, which was trying to make it so no one can make money. So there are no winners. So, it may mean that the losing player isn't losing as fast. So that may be the result. So maybe for the recreational player, I can't necessarily say maybe it has made it better for them. I know for me as a winning player, it's made it worse. Or at least I believe that. You're never going to convince me, if you increase my rake, it's better for me.
No, what they said is that you keep the not so good players along longer, and you will win in the long run for it. Maybe not in the short term, in the long run. Never mind. I don't want to. I had some problems from that interview, and Daniel had too. And maybe we should just leave that subject. What's your relationship with Pokestars today?
Well, maybe that's why I'm doing other things.
There you go.
Every morning I have 3 hours of meetings now. Not my favorite thing to do, but I'm involved with a startup company, and we'll get into that in a little while.
You can't talk about it much, can you?
Well, I can talk a little bit. I'll tell you, poker and technology related. But I don't have a adversarial relationship with Pokestars. I worked for them for 10 years or so. When I first started working for Pokestars, I could talk to the CEO directly. We would speak for about an hour every week, and I had a lot of input. They tried to hire me for a couple of years before I signed on, and the agreement was I would spec out the different things we put on the site. Like if you see deuce to seven, triple draw, Badoogie, and things like that, that was I designed what the programmer should do. The TV shows you saw, if I didn't have design, I was involved in the design and had input. And so one of the big selling points for me being with Pokestars wasn't just that I was going to be on Team Pro, it's that I had input into everything we did, marketing, everything. I would, if they didn't ask for my opinion, I was able to give it to the guy at the top, and I could make changes. So I was happy to be involved at that level. But what happened over time at Pokestars, Isai, who some people didn't like because he was the guy at the top and had the final word. But if you have the guy at the top who's good at what he does and listens to other people and makes a really well-informed decision, it's very efficient if you have the right guy.
Yeah, for sure.
But what happened? And so I think Pokestars did really well under him. And then after that, he ended up having to sell it because of all the stuff with the laws and different things. And then it got bought up by someone. It got bought up. There was a Maya. There's someone else. I don't even know where it ended up. But for me personally, all these changes meant my input would keep getting less.
Yeah.
To where at the end, I didn't even know who was involved, who were the top, from the CEO and board, the top VPs or whatever. I couldn't even get a hold of them to talk to anyone, and they wouldn't even be interested in listening to what I have to say anyway. So it was very frustrating over my period of time that I'm a creative person, and I have a good background in software, even, helping out with marketing. When I was at Symantec, I was a programmer. I helped with the marketing. I even co-wrote the manual for the stuff I did because I have certain skills. I even went and designed some of our, I go to the stores and figure out how to sell them. I was involved in so many things. It allowed me to be creative. I like to do that. I like I like programming, which I did at Symantec, and I don't do now with the company I'm involved with now. But I still had a hand or an opinion that was used in all these various parts of the company. With Pokestars at the end, I was a guy who played poker and wore a patch. I wanted to say one important thing for me with Pokestars also was I felt if someone had a problem,
I remember.
They could go to me. Obviously, I felt we had really good support and security, but even if they didn't, they could go to me personally, and I personally could make sure things were taken care of. And of course, at the end, that wasn't the case. And so I'm back. I'm with a startup company that it involves some new technology, and we'll have some new patents, and there's a poker side to it. There may be some technology to use for non-poker applications. For instance, we have some blockchain stuff. That's a buzzword. And we have some other things going on, and we will have some poker offering in the future that I can't talk about. But it's a small company. It's like at Symantec, which was like my first big company. It was 5 people when I started, and when I quit, it was over 1,000 people. It got too big. So I like it when I have to talk to 5 to 10 people at most. Right now, I have meetings a few hours every morning, which is kind of different. That's the way companies have gone with this pandemic, where you don't have office space. I mean, we will have office space with ours, but you know what I'm saying? So many companies have gone to where you work from home because we've all been in a lockdown, and that's how it is with our company. And so I have meetings in the morning, but like I say, having a say in the entire creative process is a big drawing card for me personally. In any company I'm involved in.
I think one should try to find what you're best at and use that. And maybe that was the most important person for Pokestars to that point, an active player with experience and also knowledge. So you felt you were needed there and did a good job for Pokestars, right?
Well, yeah. And I, like I said, I could see that so many of the things that I had a say in got implemented.
Yeah,
I definitely did a lot of things. Whether they were the best way to do it or they're not, certainly my opinion was valued, and I had a big effect, I felt, on the direction of the company with regard to many different things. And that's where I am now.
But there's like a moment. how do you call it? Moment 22? What do you call that? Catch 22. Because if you start in a new company and you want the company to do well, but the problem for you, Barry, is that if the company does well, it's going to be too big for you. So what are you going to do about that?
Yeah, you're right. When the company gets too big, then you have middle management coming in. I remember at Symantec when I told them I had to leave. We're over 1,000 people now, and we get a new guy in telling me he's got some idea, and I'm explaining to him, no, we've gone through that. This is why that doesn't work. This is why we've gone this other direction. And I'd have to spend my time in meetings. And I quit partly because I said, I just don't have enough time to keep having meetings with these guys and explaining why they're wrong. And I even have a little bit. I even have a little bit of my new company. They're all like gung ho. By the way, the biggest thing, and I see being in a new company, whether it was with Symantec, Pokestars, or with this new company, is believing in the people you're working with.
Yeah,
if you have
trust.
good people, but it's not just trusting, but you know they're very competent and they're kind of people who are going to get the job done. That you can
Let them
trust
do
that
it.
they are making good decisions. They'll get the job, and they're able to listen to everyone and crystallize that into something good. It doesn't have to be their solution. They're really good at collaborating. So we have that kind of group right now. So I'm happy about that. But when you get to where your company's 1,000 people, now you have a lot of people who aren't like that. A lot of people who are dead weight. It's not the same. So then I'll leave.
Yeah. What's the time plan? When are we going to hear more about it in detail and maybe see it? Do you think?
Before the summer, we're going to see something, some beta testing of a product, stuff like that. We'll see something. Certainly into the summer months for sure. If not before, we'll see something.
Yeah, I know you. I mean, you were very early into Symantec, as you said. Is there not an no offense, Barry? Is it not an age issue? I mean, starting a new company, or do you have the stuff that takes to be part of a technology company these days?
No, that's a good question because I used to work 17 hours a day, 7 days a week at Symantec at the expense of my family. Which certainly it may not have been the right thing to do for my family. Obviously, as you get older, you can't do it. And even from the point of view of programming, at Symantec, I programmed. I always just wanted to create things and program. Here, I talk to at a higher level, like maybe speccing things, if you know what that means, for the programmers to do.
Yeah.
I'll talk to the guy who's the head of the programming team instead of the programmers themselves. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll have parts in the design, but I'm not going to be doing the program work. Which is, if you want to know the truth, if you talk about my passions, programming is something I'm a lot more passionate about than playing poker.
Really?
I'm not even passionate about playing poker.
I know.
It's not even close. Poker is something I did to make a living. Poker I consider chasing money. Poker I consider something non-productive.
You enjoyed it, though. You enjoyed it, didn't you?
Well, you might think so, but I didn't even think of it in that way. I mean, it's a good job because you can make your own hours. But I was going to retire at about 50 years old from poker. I'd done well enough. And then the poker boom happened, and I felt I wanted to be a part of that. There were a lot of things going on, again, where I could be creative. But if poker would have stayed the same way it was, I would have quit at 50, where I felt I had money, I could sit back on that, and I could get into other things. Other things I would have wanted to do. So that's what I'm trying to talk about. It isn't something that absorbed me as far as I'm passionate, I want to do this the rest of my life. It's never been that type of thing. For poker, for me, for the most part, it was strictly about making enough money so I could do other things.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
It's my job. Are you passionate about doing interviews?
Sometimes, but quite a few of the interviews I do is also bread and butter. It's you do it to get a paycheck and to do your job. But it's really a very big difference. I mean, some parts of the poker you did enjoy, I guess. What was the most fun bits from back in the day?
Of course. Well, the most fun is when things change and something's new. Being on television and playing those tournaments the first time, that's kind of neat. Hey, you become kind of a minor celebrity. That's kind of fun. Here I was black sheep, not necessarily of my family, but you know what I'm saying? It was a stigma associated with it. But then it became like, hey, some people think you're an important guy now, But, that wears after a while. And I said, that's not me anyway. I've never been big into celebrity. but the first times it's kind of cool, right? But so things change, projects change. Like I say, being involved in the changes in Pokestars, that was fun. So yeah, anything where I can be creative is kind of fun for me.
Yeah.
Once I lose that, then it's not that much fun anymore.
I mean, over those years when, I mean, let's say from 2004, let's say 2004 to 2015 or something like that. I mean, all those years when people came up to you, want to take selfies and stuff like that and get autographs in your book and everything. Do people still remind you of that when you meet them? Or, I mean, apart from the last year when you haven't been out much?
Well, it's kind of funny how that is, because there's a certain age demographic that knows who I am, and younger than that and older than that kind of don't know me as much because, not seeing me now because things aren't on TV they used to. So the people who were between 15 and 25 when the poker boom started, they still remember who I am and they'll recognize me and whatever. But like I said, the new people, I did that thing with Phil Ivey you probably saw.
Yeah, I saw that.
And Phil's still in the mainstream enough that people know who he is. But I saw in the comments people saying, who the heck's that guy talking to Phil like he's some big deal or something? So it's like I'm not with the younger group that's just coming in. Maybe this new project, I'll get my face back on TV or something. Who knows? But I don't go around playing tournaments and things where you would be televised. And obviously, televised poker isn't a thing like it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago. So
no.
But that doesn't matter to me because, again, that was something. It was neat when it first happened, but I've done that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's not like I crave that. You see a movie about some old actress who craves being back in the limelight. That's not me. I'm more someone. I'm happy to have had the experience. Now I'll go on to some new experience. And and the reason I'm doing this interview is because you're my friend. It is because you're Ricard, who most people regard as the best interviewer in Europe. And, I think of you as kind of a big deal. Yeah. But if you weren't my friend, I still would have said, nah, it's not for me.
Yeah, I know. It was interesting years. I just came in like you did. You came in at the right time. And I started doing what I did at the right time, I guess. And I found that it was really entertaining and interesting and meeting all these people and spending a lot of time in the States as well. I remember I set up this interview booth on the back where the hoop was, where outside at World Series, or I used some of the stages, and I was more or less the only one doing those kind of things in the beginning. That was fun.
Yeah. And again, you got to be creative. And because it was a new thing you were doing.
Yeah, I remember one thing specific at the Scoop event. It was an online event, and you played a sit and go tournament, like a Scoop event number 40. And you did a screen share with me and talked through the whole table. That was very appreciated. No one had done that before. You wanted to.
Yeah, no. I remember. I even think I won one. I won something while I was doing a thing like that, doing a stream. And again. Yeah. I dread that they'd wanted me to do a stream with this new thing because, again, it's one of those things. It was fun to do. I did it. And I did all those things, like I say, with the whole cards exposed and the delay. Yeah. And I had a lot of people who liked it. I had, a number of followers and all that. And I enjoyed it. And I enjoyed the interaction. But like I say, I've done it. I'm not that interested in doing it again.
But it's great, though, Barry, that you still have the passion and the will to go forward with new projects and feeling the same kind of passion for that, isn't it?
Well, again, there are two sides to that. Part of the reason is that with the card rooms shut down, I can't make any money.
No, right. That's right. Oh, that's
So it's not totally just me giving my time and being a good guy. There's a money making part of it too, where this thing does well, I'll make money, so I'm invested in it that way. So it's not, so I'm not able to make money at poker like I used to make it for a number of reasons, and I'm even thinking coming out of this lockdown, I need to prepare myself for the future. I think of a lot of there'll be people listening to this that for the last 8 to 12 months have just been sitting at home and locked down. And they lost their jobs or the companies went under. A lot of bad economic tragedies are laying in the wake of this pandemic. But I hope anyone listening is setting themselves up to be ready when things aren't locked down. And that means even starting on a project, starting on a temp job, if you have to give your name to that. Don't just wait to the last minute and say, hey, I'm in really bad shape now, I got to do something, because you're going to be behind other people. You should have been working on that the last 8 months, and you should be working on it now. You should be preparing for your future. And most people, especially poker players, poker's not going to probably be as good as it was before, for sure. I'm going to go back into some of these poker rooms, and some of these players who play there for fun that are important for me making my living, maybe they're not going to want to go back in the card room because they're still threat of disease, or maybe they're doing other things now. So, it isn't. I do enjoy the new creativity, but at some point, it's going to be work, if you know what I mean. It's not going to be passion. It's not going to be fun. It's going to be work. You just started with your podcast again. Hey, it's good to renew old acquaintances, and you're having a little bit of fun. But at some point, you're going to say, okay, I got to do this again. It's work.
It is true. I thought about it when the idea came up, and I thought I would enjoy that. And we'll see if I find a way to make that a bit of my living, if you can say it that way, and doing stuff that you enjoy, and maybe do some new creative stuff with the design or whatever. And I think there are quite a few out there that I haven't been speaking to for maybe 5-6 years, and it's nice to hear what they've been up to and what they're like today. Some people would ask, I guess, Barry, if they would say, oh, you played for so many years, you did some good things with Symantec, and you did some money in the poker. I mean, do you ever think of retiring?
Well, I was going to, like I said, at one point.
Yeah, but I mean now.
I sort of think, well, now really I have to make, I gave away almost all my cash before the 2008, when we had the crash in the stock market. We had poker get shut down online in the United States. I thought I'd never need money again. I had a lot of money. But I'd given away. I said I can afford to give away my cash. I had stock holdings and tech stocks. I thought I was set for life. I never had to worry about money again the rest of my life. But that's not true, because the truth is I probably didn't plan well enough. I mean, you can say, how could I have seen the triple whammy? Housing market, property, stock market crash, online poker get shut off. I had good income from Pokestars. That kept getting lower, lower, lower till it wasn't significant anymore. I mean, I can make excuses and say that it wasn't all my fault, but
bad beats.
But it was a real bad beat. But I take responsibility that I didn't plan well enough. And it means I have to work and try to make money now, whether it's playing poker, whether it's with this new company, whatever. I don't have enough money to retire anymore, even though I had, sick amount of money before. No, it's not the case now. So yeah, I didn't plan on working when I was in my 60s, but I actually am now.
Yeah, but it's great though to see that you have done well enough with your deeds that people still want you to work. Isn't that a great thing to be happy about?
Yeah, well, I'm hopefully I'm still a few years away from being senile. Some people listening might say I'm already there, but I'm able, even though I can't process, and I can't, whether it's poker or business or whatever, processing speed goes down over time. Phil was arguing with me that no, it doesn't have to, but we'll see when he gets to my age. But the one thing I do have is I have a lot of experience.
Yeah.
And, I told you I have like 3 hours of meetings every morning with the company I'm at. And they're all really gung-ho and tell me all these great things that we're going to do and say, isn't this going to be neat? Isn't that going to be neat? This is really going to be successful. And most of my time is like, I'm Debbie Downer. I don't know if that means anything to you.
What is that?
I'm the person saying, I can see how things can go wrong.
Yeah.
You guys are always assuming everything will go well.
Yeah.
I can see that it's not going to be as easy as you think. You keep on saying that we can program this and do that. I can see things where it's not going to work smoothly, bugs, but also when you do a big project, things happen that don't go the way you thought they were going to. I mean, even at, I can think of so many things in Symantec where even then, because I'd worked on project before, I'd say, you guys aren't preparing time-wise for what can go bad.
Right.
People get sick who are important. There are bottlenecks where you're waiting for someone to get their part done. Even something, I was discussing with the guys that, I'm having fun discussing technology because I got into computers before the guys in our company, where I was saying, we first had the very first IBM PC. It's called the chip was called the 8088.
Yeah.
And then a year later or so, we got the new, twice as fast, at least, I can't remember, the chip for people who were into that stuff was the 8286, I think.
Okay.
And, or sorry, not 8, yeah, that's what
it was a new one anyway. Yeah.
Anyway, 286, the next IBM PC, at least twice as fast. And we had our hardware guys make it even faster. We all get these new machines. We're the first company in Silicon Valley to get these new great computers, and they just freeze up. Everyone's computers don't work. And we're saying, what the heck did IBM do? Well, it ended up, we had souped these. Think of a car that you can soup up to go even faster. You take off, you know how cars make it so you can't go, they have what's the word for it? They can't go over 180 miles an hour. They have a thing
like like it strangles it in a way. The speed.
It.
Muscle maybe. Muscle or something.
No, there's a word for it, and I'm forgetting. Yeah. People who are listening don't want to talk about it. But anyway, with computers, they have something like that too, holding the chips down for the maximum performance. Well, we unleashed it, but what happened is when we unleashed these chips, the peripheral devices couldn't work. The screen, even the stuff that writes to the screen, would freeze up. You couldn't even the printer wouldn't work. So we had to find out, the peripheral devices aren't used to running at these speeds. The point I'm getting at is things happen that you can't predict.
Right.
And get in the way of your production. And so you can't just plan. So many people, when they work on a project, they say, this will take a day, this will take a day, that'll take a day. Mm. And then they do the project, and not only do people get sick, bad things happen, but you got to get the bugs out.
Yeah.
Manuals have to, so many things have to happen that I would just laugh at these people, even a company that was successful like Symantec. Their planning was just so way off from reality.
Right.
And, so like I say, in the meetings I'm in, I'm often the guy saying that probably isn't going to go as smoothly as you think.
No, I think it's important because I've seen many guys like that throughout the years, like the guys who can sell an idea, who can talk and drive forward. And I'm kind of impressed by them. I don't have anything of that. I'm not a good salesman myself. But you need those guys for sure. But you also need someone behind, pulling the brakes a little bit on them. Otherwise, you go overboard, I guess.
Yeah. So we'll see. But like I said, the good thing with this company, we'll see how it is. I like the people. I like working with them. And I found, like at Symantec, we had about 3 or 4 key employees, and I was considered one of them, who really felt like they had never failed. Anything they put their minds to, they succeeded.
Yeah.
And that their egos they were confident in themselves, but not confident to the point that it would hurt the product. They knew they were confident that they could get the job done, and they would do their part. They'd never be the long leg in getting something done. And so we have some of those people in our company. And so even though I think we've got a good offering, that's the more important thing to me. If things, and we'll see if I'm right. And then even once you do a good product, Symantec started in the days of venture capitalists throwing money at all these new computer companies. Right. And only 3 of them from the year that I started survived out of more than 100. I don't even know that venture capitalists threw billions of dollars into overall. 3 of them survived. 2 of them got bought out. That's how they survived. They got acquired. Their product got acquired. Only 1 made it as a standalone company. Out of all those companies, that was Symantec.
Yeah.
And there were times when we didn't know if we'd make it either. And I still attribute it to, we had people in the company that were going to make sure it was successful. That was the key component, not the ideas, because sometimes you change streams in the middle of an idea. You go a totally different direction. and we even did at Symantec too. But it's people are still always the most important asset you have.
That's for sure. And you had the right guys to make sure it was successful there. So that's good. I mean, is there time? I mean, it's poker related, you say. Is there anything else outside tech and poker and maybe a bit of golf that you put your time into?
At this point, not so much. If I had retired at 50, I actually was thinking of going to medical school.
Really?
Because I always thought that my computer science background and my math background allows me to solve some problems like curing incurable diseases that other people can't do because they don't have that expertise.
Right.
And part of that comes out of that when I was in graduate school to get my working on my PhD in math, I would teach courses in that'd be more, instead of just the regular calculus for engineering students, which I thought that too, it'd be more like qualitative calculus more than quantitative. Stuff that people to understand the concepts. Stuff that people in the economics, I'd have students who were getting degrees in economics or students who were getting degrees in who were in pre-med.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, these guys are so bad in this math that it made me scared. I'm saying these are going to be the doctors in the future. They're really inept at this kind of stuff. They can't solve problems. And as a mathematician, there is a big ego with being a mathematician. We kind of feel like we're the ones who prove the theorems and make the rules that other people use, whether they're in economics, in medicine, in psychology. There's always biometrics or things where you use the math and we prove the theorems. And even in physics, there are people who maybe are physicists, but you need the guys doing the math and proving things mathematically that are still at the core of showing why this works.
Yeah.
And so I always felt like I could go into medicine. I wouldn't want to be a doctor as far as having patients. But maybe, we're even seeing with this mRNA, that's kind of what's going on. They have a technique for taking the code of the virus, the genetic code of the virus, and basically programming it, changing some things and sticking in your body so your body thinks it's the real virus and it's not.
Yeah, that is math.
Yeah, it is. So it's that type of thing that I would have gone into, those types of things.
Yeah. So is there anything, I mean, you didn't do that now when you were 50. Is there something that you are studying or listening a lot to or reading these days?
Well, I personally, like, my light reading is always quantum physics and cosmology. So so I'm always reading at the lowest levels, the tiniest levels, what's going on, because we're always looking for what's called a unifying, a unification of gravity, small and strong forces. These small things that are going on don't work like Newton would have thought, but we still don't know how it all ties together. So that stuff's always interesting. And cosmology is like studying things that are, the birth of the universe, and if there was something before it, and all the new things we're finding. So that level of physics, it's kind of funny. I never was that big into physics when I was in college. In college, I remember I was originally getting a degree in math. Then they offered a degree in computer science. It was in the engineering department. So I quickly had to take chemistry and physics.
Right.
And I actually did something where I took some tests and got out of the lower level ones, but then I had to take the courses in the later level ones. And I shouldn't brag about it, but my scores would be so much, like, we'd have 200 people and they'd have like the highest score on the test, the average would be 82, and I'd always be over 90. I'd be the guy, the dot, way above everyone else.
Really?
So I was really good academically. And my roommate was a physics major. He was way better than me at physics. And it would just drive him crazy. And I'd say, well, I know the math. They don't test you on having a feel for the physics, which he's way better than me. But they give you problems that are the math. And I know the calculus, whatever. I know the math behind it all. And I know how to do that, or I would learn it, in my physics courses. So, of course, I'm better at math than the physics guys are. They're all better than me at physics.
Yeah.
So I test better. I'm not better than them, man. I just test better. So
that's interesting.
So knowing the math is the key to testing well.
Right.
It doesn't mean you know the subject that well.
No, but you should combine that in some way, because what you said before about doctors and don't have maths at all, but they know a lot of doctor stuff. So how can you combine that? Can you use that kind of knowledge that you're talking about now to improve medicine, for example?
Well, I still could have when I was 50 years old. I'm over the
Yeah,
hill
but
now.
can you
No,
help explain this to people so we come further
no,
in?
no. But there are young kids who are doing exactly what I'm talking about, and I'm sure they're making great contributions. And that's why we do have. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that these vaccines that they made that are coming out, the Pfizer and the first two here were Pfizer and Moderna, and over in England we had the AstraZeneca. But these two, what are called mRNA vaccines, I don't know if you know. Do you know how long it took to make the vaccine?
No, I don't know.
Let me ask you the question.
Yeah,
Take a
I
guess.
didn't.
How long
Yeah,
do you think it took them to actually make the vaccine for this COVID, what they call COVID-2?
yeah. I have no idea. Month,
Less than a week.
less than
They
a week.
had
Yeah,
they had the process ready. They were ready from when they studied the previous coronavirus. They made it the first week. But you
yeah.
can't you don't know what the dosage is. You don't know
No.
if there might be other effects. They give it to, that's why you have it in our country. I don't know how it is in Europe, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. First,
Yeah,
you give it to healthy people, and you're learning that the dosage that won't make people sick. Then then you have to do trials. There are each of these trials to see, does it hurt people? Are there side effects? Does it create antibodies? All this other stuff. Making the vaccine itself was kind of like what we're talking about, the
mm.
mathematical part. Now
I see. I
testing it,
see.
all that other part, that's
Yeah,
the science part.
right. That's
So the
interesting.
science part takes at least a year.
Mm.
They were ready mathematically to make a virus right from the jump. As soon as
Yeah,
they got the genetic code for it, they were ready to go. And
yeah,
we're going to
yeah,
see out of this, they're going to be creating vaccines for other viruses, for things that we have, and for new viruses that are to come. We're still
yeah.
going to be having other viruses come out that don't exist, and they're
Yeah.
going to be ready for them.
I was thinking about the thing when all these young players came up in the poker world. I kept on thinking about how quite a few of these guys with great mathematic minds could have been of better use outside poker. I mean, medicine, physics, or whatever. Did you ever think about that? You know what I mean?
All the time, because
It's
that's
kind
one
of
of the
frustrating, right?
because that's one of the things with myself. I always have to say, am I being productive? What am I contributing to the world? Those are
Am
things
I
that I was
best
raised
used?
that are
Yeah,
important things. And of course, people, of course, I'd always have to ask myself, I could have gone on to do some of these other things we're talking about. And here I'm just sitting at a poker table trying to
yeah.
make money.
It's
Now,
kind of a waste.
and when people even ask me about, the charity stuff, that's part of it. At least I can say, okay, I made money, but I did some good things with it.
Yeah,
So some people say, hey, don't you wish you had some of that money back? And the answer is no, not even close.
right.
Because having that money back kind of means that my whole existence was worthless,
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
that I wasted my talents. So
Well,
no, not at
yeah.
all.
I was wondering how much was it the Robin Hood of poker was just a thing that was used for quite a few years for you because you gave away some of your winnings for the first few years. How much was that image? How much was that? What did you think of that nickname?
Well, I didn't care about the nickname one way or the other, but it's whatever. People came up with it. An image. Well, it's nice that people think you're a good guy,
Good-hearted, yeah.
But my initial thing about that whole thing was, like, the first time I did it was a WPT event I won, and I told people ahead of time, this is what I'm going to do with whatever I win. And Mike Sex and I were kind of brainstorming, hey, this is going to be a big deal, not
Right.
because of the $1 million I'm about to give away if I win, but because it will put other people on that path.
Right.
And it ended up, I think, working out pretty successfully. I don't want to take credit for all the good things people have done charitably in poker, and obviously I don't deserve it. But I do think I had an effect.
Right. For sure.
And so I'm proud of that. My family's proud of that. They take ownership in that. I had a positive effect in the world. I don't think you can really ask for more than coming out of this feeling like you had a positive effect.
Well,
And if you ask me what's the most rewarding thing about it all, the thing I often think about is we had a thing. It wasn't Make-A-Wish Foundation. I don't know even know if you know what that is. And
I remember. Yeah.
But we would have this thing in poker where people would have this terminal cancer, and poker was big enough that they would want to like talk to you,
Right.
whether it's on a stream or whatever, or a phone call, or like a guy'd say, "I'll play this tournament for you." Hey, follow me online, and we'd have people dying. And when you can make their day, these are people who've been in pain. And they're going to die. They really are going to die, probably this next year. And you can have a positive effect on them and make them feel good for a short time. It's pretty rewarding. I've done that.
It's huge.
I've done that, and I'm just telling you, it's a big deal. It's a big deal to me. That I could get some. I mean, certainly I got something out of it. And hopefully they did. They had one better day. That's probably all they got out of it.
Yeah, I go to ask you one of those journalist questions. What was the biggest bit? Because you said that you were kind of not the black sheep, but some people in your family and so on looked at you like, yeah, he's playing poker. So how much was it most important to cover up for the black sheep thing, or was it to do good things? Do you know what I mean?
Well, fortunately in my family, I wasn't looked at that way because I had done other productive things. Remember, I had my own computer company. I'd done semantic. I'd done things. I'd gotten educated. It's not like I dropped out of college to play poker.
No, there you go.
So I had done things that are productive that my family was all behind it. And then I even wrote a book, so that was, my family was involved in that project too. Yeah. So I didn't have that personally, but a lot of people did.
Right.
I know I had a lot of parents over the years would ask me, "Oh, my son, he just stays online and plays poker. It's terrible what he's doing. We thought he was going to be involved in his uncle's business." And I'd say, "Well, what does his uncles do?" And his uncle have some sort of stock business or something, or even insurance. But the thing is, they had raised their kid to believe that making money is what determines whether you're successful or not.
Yeah.
And that's all that mattered. And there were so many times I'd say, well, you were the ones who told him that his worth as a person is how much money he makes.
Right. And that's a good answer.
And now he sees poker as a way he can make money because he's good at it.
Yeah.
He's a kid who's good at it. He's making money. Maybe it won't stay that way, whatever, but he's actually doing pretty well. You're looking at it as non-productive, but you were telling him all his life, what are you going to do? How are you going to make a lot of money? And now he's doing it. And then you're now saying, no, you don't want him to make money that way. Right. And I don't know. I mean, they get mad at me. And I'd say, you're really part of the problem, or you are the reason. And I'd explain to them that my family never raised me to believe that money was the goal.
All right.
You get a job so you can take care of your family. Yeah, you want to be comfortable. It's easier if you have money than not. But the goal is to do positive things, to make the world a better place. That's what makes you successful. So if you raise your kids to only think about money, well, yeah, when poker starts and they're really intelligent people, they're going to gravitate to that, of course.
Did you have any advice for them that could lead in a direction like support them, give them support, and tell them? What did you tell these parents except for that it was too late?
Most of the time, I'd have to talk to the kid.
Yeah. What did you say to the kid? What did you say to the kid?
I'd say your parents steered you in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
I said, no, there's more to life. I said, no matter, money's going to come and go. But you're a really sharp kid and you dropped out of college. And I can tell you, and this is a time where I had plenty of money. I got millions of dollars. If that's all I had, I'd feel pretty empty.
Yeah.
And you're going to get to the point where even if one of two things is going to happen. You're going to have a lot of money or you're going to go broke.
Yeah.
Usually there's nothing much in between.
All right.
And if you're broke, you're going to feel, what the heck did I did? And if you have a lot of money, you're going to think, where am I now? And what could I have done?
Yeah.
So either way, I had so many kids, and that was another thing that was very gratifying to me. I really was able to have a lot of people go back to school.
Right.
And find a career. And I'd say, have that at least in your back pocket, that if poker changes, which it did, made it, obviously it's not as lucrative as it was for most of us during the heyday. But if things change, if poker dries up, you got this other stuff you can do. And always look for things that you are passionate about that you'd like to go into. So at least it'll be more enjoyable, because your job, even if it's poker, you always think, hey, everyone enjoys playing poker. No, but you might have something else. Maybe you like being a forest ranger. I don't know. You really like the outdoors. But if that's something you really enjoy, make sure you get that in your life, because that's going to make you happier than just having a good bank account. Yeah.
That's really important advice for sure. And it was for quite a while there when the hype was and when the boom came along, and it was so much hype around it. It was very tricky to get intelligent young kids to not play poker, because it was such an opportunity for many of them. Do you ever feel like you were part of that? Have you thought about how the way you were a part of infected many people to think of it as such a glamorous life?
Well, of course. And I tell them, no, for the people who are at the top of the chain, at the top of the pyramid, it's a lot of fun. But there are still a lot of down times and things you are going to be wondering if this is really the right thing to do. Like I said, the more intelligent you are, the more you're going to question if this is the right path.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, one of the first, I used to speak in front of groups of college kids, and one of the biggest one I ever had, live anyway, maybe online it's been bigger, is when I went back to my alma mater, University of Illinois, and I had a big auditorium full of kids. And I remember saying, I'm just going to tell you straight out, the fact that you're here means you guys are playing too much poker. You guys are probably...
It's a bad sign.
I said, if you're here to see me, it makes me think you're not doing what you should. You're not taking care of business. You got to take care of business first, and your business is getting your education. And and I still know some of those guys, that some of them did well in poker, who were at that talk at University of Illinois. And I'd say, when I was in school, I still made sure I finished my courses. I did well in them. I played poker mostly on the weekend. I know it's hard to do with the accessibility online, but probably it's better for your health, for your mental health, and for your future if you can schedule things a little better. I said, it's the old adage, goes back to the ancient Greeks. You take care of your work first, and then you can have fun,
Yeah.
And so, I was trying to push that in poker, and then someone asked an unfortunately very insightful question, and I tell them how, even though I represent Pokestars, I told them ahead of time, I'm going to be telling people they're probably playing too much poker, and if you don't like me, then don't have me as an ambassador. And then someone said, you represent Pokestars, and they're paying all these things for this supernova elite where you get all these benefits. Everything they market is to make us play poker 24 hours a day, as much as we can, so we get all the benefits. And you're representing this company, and then you come here and tell us we're playing too much poker, and your company does everything they can to have us play more. What do you have to say about that?
Wow, good question.
And I said, I guess it just shows I'm a hypocrite, because it's so often you find out, you think you're this guy who's got the answers, and so many times, I mean, it's amazing, as I've seen in my life, how many times you got a thing, but there's another side to it, and you're not the good guy you thought you were.
Yeah, that's very good. I think it comes back to what we talked about earlier when it comes to politics. I think people should learn to listen more, for sure, always, and look up the guys on the other side of the fence. Try to listen to. I think that's a big problem in the States, in my country as well, that you just listen. Look at Facebook. You just listen to the guys that have the same thoughts as you have, and that's one of the big really problems, I think.
Mm-hmm.
You need to listen to the ones on the other side, right?
For sure. You got to listen to everyone. And like I said, not everyone's coming from the same background as you. Not everyone thinks the way. And just attacking people because they were raised differently, they think differently, their news is different, their ideas are different. That's how it's affecting you. And the thing is, don't be so sure that you're right about everything you think. You're not. Some of your things are wrong. Some of your ideas are wrong.
Yeah, I think over the past year or maybe two, there have been so many oppositions that I think people sometimes can think that, is there any hope that things are going to turn out in a better direction? Because it just seems to be worse and worse and more divided. Is there a solution to this for USA, for example?
Well, let me go the opposite of what you just said. Every time, the last few elections we've had, the people who were supporting the person who lost the presidential election thought now there is no hope, that
Right.
that the end is near. This is the end of it. And I try to tell them, you know, this for most of us is not going to affect our everyday lives. It's affecting people. It usually affects people at the bottom who are struggling.
Right. Yeah.
And maybe makes their struggles worse or maybe better. Or the people at the top, sometimes it's affecting them. But for most of us in the middle, our day-to-day life isn't changing as much. But so many of the people in the middle are thinking, that's the end of my life. That's the end of our country. That's the end of the world. No, it isn't. So the people, so I would first, instead of saying, addressing the question you asked about can it get better, I just want to address to those people, it isn't going to be as tragic if you're now depressed about it.
Right.
Or 4 years ago, you were about to kill yourself.
Yeah.
It wasn't, all the things they told you were going to happen when you thought it was the end of the world, they didn't happen. And all the things that people think now are going to be the end of the world, they aren't going to happen. It's not going to be that bad. And you, at least in the countries we live in, most of the determination of what's going to be our futures, we have a lot of say in it.
Yeah.
And we have enough freedom that we can make things work.
Yeah, I think in many ways, life for the man, I mean, it's a lot of people in pain and so on, but a lot of people have a really good life and just don't remember to look at it that way. Look at the bright side of things, look at how good things are in so many areas. That's what I try to say. Right?
Well, the problem is with people is they're going to blame it on other things. There's so many people, there are a lot of people who are listening who are saying, yeah, well, I have no job, I'm broke, I'm in bad shape, and they're listening to this. You got to get off your butt and you got to make it work. You got to get some momentum going.
Right.
In the right direction. Sitting there feeling sorry for yourself, yeah, you're going to have a sad life. I'm sorry to tell you. Waiting for someone else to save you, you're going to have a sad life.
Have you listened?
You got to start making some moves into, hey, this is my future. You may not see it long term, so you got to go in short steps. But educate yourself on certain things. You got to move in a positive direction. The worst thing for me when I was 20 years old is spending a day where I felt I didn't learn anything new. I didn't move in a positive direction. To me, that was a lost day.
Yeah, I know for quite a few years ago, I found out about Jordan Peterson, and he wrote his 12 rules for life and so on. And I think his basic rule is make your bed. It's like you have to start somewhere. And if it's a mess around you, just start in that corner and start to make that nice, and then build from there. Everyone can do that.
Exactly. Right? And I have that with my kids all the time, where I try to reward them, even if it's going outside and going for a run.
Yeah.
Learning something new. That's a positive thing. It doesn't always translate into, money or things like that, but doing something positive, that's you should keep in mind in your life. Do positive things, and that's really going to help out.
Yeah.
Keep the momentum going.
That's excellent. When I started the idea of doing this, I thought I talked to Martin Jakobsen, the world champion of 2014, and I thought we're going to talk about old hands, not hands, but maybe talking to you would be a little bit about high stakes poker and so on. But are you more of a guy living in now than in the past? Would you say?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
To me, the past is just about experience.
Right.
So I'm going to reflect on the past.
And use it now.
Yeah, and use it for that experience should help me do better things. But for sure, I live in today. I mean, try to plan better for the future. Like I said, I haven't always done the best job of that. But yeah, for sure, I don't want to say in the moment and spontaneous, but I certainly am not. I certainly don't live in the past.
No, I think that's an important lesson for people as well, because there's so many people are complaining about things that has happened. Oh, that was bad, and they're complaining about that. That doesn't get you anywhere. It just makes your now worse, I think. So it's better to look at now. Maybe use a good experience and go forward. So
Right.
so that's a good lesson, Barry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was great talking to you, Barry. And we used to do this quite often back in the day, but maybe we shouldn't wait another 4 or 5 years until we talk next time. What do you think?
Well, I guess it's a play on a, since my heritage is Jewish, that there was a thing that they used to say to each other before Israel was even formed, which was "See you next year." I think in Jerusalem, actually.
Okay.
Which would never happen. Eventually, did happen. So all I can say is we still have a date that we'll see you next year in Sweden.
Yeah, I look forward to that. If I don't see you first, I mean, if I don't get to Vegas first or something, or we meet at some poker event or something, I sure look forward to. You've never been to Sweden, right? You haven't been that much to Europe at all, have you?
With Pokestars, I went to.
Yeah,
I didn't
Budapest
go.
and Barcelona.
Yeah, so most of the time was just London, Paris,
Barcelona,
Barcelona. Italy. Went to some places there.
San
So
Remo,
yeah, the major tournament stops. So that's
yeah.
what I did. I always enjoy Europe. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I will show you Stockholm one day when you and Alex come here. We will show you Sweden for you, and hopefully we have got this herd immunity sorted out as well, right?
Well, I assume you guys are getting vaccinated too.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like we're not that. It's not as urgent here for some reason, like in UK and so on. But we're getting there, and I feel confident about it. And I think I had it in February or something, just a short bit, because I met a lot of people, and I haven't had it since anyway.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people, especially poker players, who've acted like there's no pandemic. I've talked to a lot of them here who say, "I'm pretty sure I had it a couple times because I was sick. I was sick for a week and I recovered." So
yeah.
I think poker players may have the highest level of antibodies of
Immune system.
any population because they went through it.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, Barry, we should end this, but I really appreciate our talk, and I'm looking forward to talk to you soon again. And let's chat later down the road, and at least if not else, we plan for your trip to Sweden.
Sounds good, Rickard.
That concludes the second episode of The Swedest Deal. It was really nice talking to Barry, and we will be back in 2 weeks with another guest. Thank you very much for listening, and a big thanks to our sponsor, Tops Poker. See you soon.